If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and like this video and leave a comment on what you thought on my draft and also what we're going to be talking about here in a second on what the Houston Texans should do with not only just their first pick of the first round, but also their second pick of the first round where they're picking 12th overall. And it's kind of a continued series, I think, that we've been doing, that we've found success in, that a lot of people find interesting. And I guess just kind of start out with, I think the Texans, they're kind of in a luxury spot because you have 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
You obviously need a quarterback. You're going to get, at minimum, the second best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, the thought is do you want to give up a first round, next year's first round pick
to go up one spot?
You go up one spot. And now, do they still have the Browns? They have another Browns pick for next year, correct?
I think so. I think they gave up 3 first-round picks.
Okay. Yeah, because last year, this year, and next year. I know they did give up 3 first-round picks because that's what kind of the projection is for Lamar Jackson, and because he wants something similar.
Yeah.
So that actually then brings up then an interesting debate is like, if you really like a guy and you want to get into a bidding war, you have something that the Colts don't have, which is that, I mean, we have another 2 first-round picks next year. So, like, if we just want to give one away, like, we don't care. We can throw in that and then throw in, like, maybe a second or third round for this year and be like, hey, we'll give you the highest pick of next year's draft. So then you're getting then the best pick. But even then, though, to think where the Texans are at, they're in full rebuild mode, evaluating every position. I would say maybe left tackle they don't need with Laremy Tunsil. You could get some running back depth, but you're kind of good there. You can get running back depth very late into the draft. So it's a very interesting spot. Unlike the Colts, who personally I think, I mean, yes, they can have some improvement. That defense is solid if it comes back and they can play nearly as well as they did this year. Outside of a few outlier games, we all know Minnesota and then the Dallas fourth quarter. Overall, they actually played decently well. Held it back both the Chiefs and the Eagles offense, I think, to less than 20 points in both of their games.
And they beat the Chiefs.
And they beat the Chiefs. And they have actually some decent offensive weapons with Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, and I think Alec Pierce. Yeah. So they are kind of more closer to a quarterback away from being a contender. So they can be more aggressive. The Texans, do you want to get into a bidding war? Do you think they should give up a first-round pick for next year to move up one spot?
No. To me, I think if you are the Texans, you look at Chicago and you're like, hey, I have the number 2 pick, right? Like, this is what we're thinking. We want quarterback prospect, insert name, right? We don't want Indianapolis to get them. So we're willing to give you the second pick and our second pick 33. Or, yeah, it would be 33. And it's like, we'll give you that, and then you will give us the quarterback prospect that we want. We have another first-round pick, so it doesn't really hurt us. And it's like, and then if you want to trade back with Indianapolis, they can get quarterback prospect B. And to me, I think that's the pitch. And then it's like, so not only then do the Bears get 2 and 33, then they could also trade back with the Colts, possibly get another first rounder next year. Going from 2 to 4 versus 1 to 4, I don't think they're going to get nearly as much. But that's the bidding war I think the Colts and the Texans will get into. In my opinion, as far as what that prospect is worth, I think is how much they like either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud more. And that, again, is for scouts to evaluate how much better do you think Bryce Young is than CJ Stroud or vice versa. Do you not like either of them? Are you a Will Levis fan? Because that plays a big role in all of this. And so I think there's a lot that these talent evaluators have to do. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, it's a lot of I love poker, and it's going to be a lot of table reading. It's going to be a lot of reading. Like what is the Texas front office thinking about after I think it was today or yesterday when Jim Irsay is like, oh yeah, that Alabama kid, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. It's like, is he just trying to play the game? Do they not really like him? Do they actually like Stroud more? Do they like Levis more? Are they trying to
Yeah.
lower the price down or maybe bring the price up, to where it entice us into that first round pick? And for me personally, and I said this in my mock draft as well, is I think that it should be, if you absolutely love Bryce Young, if you absolutely love him, you don't want to have to play him because you can see all of these other great characteristics that you see in this quarterback, then to me, maybe it's worth it because you do have that extra first round pick. Like, so you're still going to have a first round pick next year. Um, and to me, I also think one thing to consider is, and what's even interesting of it now is maybe there's some question marks about these quarterbacks here where you're like, maybe I don't know if I want to give up my first round pick. And another interesting thing to think about is next year's quarterback class is supposed to be really good. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Quinn Ewers. You have an older quarterback, Michael Penix, who, if healthy, I think he could potentially make a run. So he'd be something similar to Hendon Hooker. And then you also have a lot of other guys that could potentially make a huge leap. KJ Jefferson with Arkansas, Cameron Akers with Washington State as well as another guy. Probably later round. I'm stretching now, but there's still a lot of other names, a lot more quarterback friendly draft next year. Do you maybe want to be like, hey, what if we fall in love with Will Anderson? Like, we just roll with what we got. And so then when we draft a quarterback next year, our team is perfect for that. Our team is perfect our team is now perfectly set up for this rookie quarterback to come in.
In my opinion, if that is your philosophy, you trade back. You give that to that second pick to a Las Vegas. It's like, hey, we love CJ Stroud. Yeah. Or we love this, we love Bryce Young, we love Will Levis, and like, to me, if that's the route that they take, I'm not sure. I don't think that's the route they're going to take, because I think if you look at that roster and you look at where the coaching staff that they just hired is, it's like, okay, well, Davis Mills, I don't think is the guy. And like, we have an opportunity to go out and get a blue chip quarterback prospect. I don't think you wait until next year if you're that coaching staff, because I think you get your guy. I think you start developing him and getting him in your system. Yeah. Because honestly, frankly, look at Nathaniel Hackett and all that happened with him. I get that's a little bit different expectations, but like, they sucked. They were horrible. And it's like the Broncos gave them 11 or 12 games, and they were like, all right, like, get your shit and get out. Like, that's no. And that's to me, I think is the way that it's approached in the front office, because I think for those coaches, for them to keep their jobs, they need to start winning a lot of games as soon as possible.
Or you can have it like, he's a rookie quarterback. He's getting used to the league, getting used to the system and to the speed of the game. And that's fair. And that's a good point. I think it's an interesting talking point to talk about, like, if they go receiver or not receiver, like, don't go quarterback with that second pick because of how many picks they have next year. And if they get into a bidding war, but they don't like whoever is the second quarterback. But that being said, though, I think whichever quarterback that they love, that like there's not going to be a huge disparity between number one and number two. It's not like it's Joe Burrow and then CJ Stroud. You know what I mean? Where there's a clear difference. Be like, no, we really want this guy. There are a lot of doubts with CJ Stroud. There's a lot of doubts with Bryce Young and Will Levis. Definitely a lot of doubts with Anthony Richardson also. And so I agree. I think they definitely go quarterback in number two, but at the same time, I wouldn't go into a bidding war. But they're going to absolutely analyze something totally different, and I think that they might be content with just taking the second, and have the Colts kind of mortgage their future.
Yeah, and that to me, I think is the route that they take. I think they're definitely calling Chicago if the Colts have not traded up after the combine, if they fall in love and be like, hey, like here's the sitch. We really love Bryce Young. We really love CJ Stroud. And like we'll give you 2 and 33 for it. For that first pick. Anything more than that, we're really not willing to do because one, there's still very elite defensive talent on the board, or like we like Bryce Young more, or we like CJ Stroud more, but we like the other almost as much. And that to me, it's like I don't think the Dolphins in 2020 were like, damn, they drafted Justin Herbert. Like, looks like we'll have to take Tua. I don't think that was their mindset. It's like okay, they took Justin Herbert. We still get a blue chip prospect and Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Wow. They're probably kicking themselves now, but
yeah, I will say I will disagree with you a little bit on like just like we'll give you number 1 and number 2, or like our second overall pick, and then our then I guess like a 33rd overall pick.
Yeah, 33rd.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be more than that because to me it's just. I mean, you're going to have the Raiders calling in. You're going to have the Panthers calling in. I'm sure the Seahawks, Lions, and Falcons are also all calling in, even though I think those teams are much less likely to go quarterback. And at that point, it's not like it's a 1-for-1 situation where like the Houstons are just like doing a sure bet and like, hey, we'll give you like this one extra pick if they're the only other team. I think that will draw the price up. And I know you're going to be looking at your chart on like what it should be worth, but when there's more teams calling in, the Bears can ask for more because they could still go get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. And I agree with you on this, the Colts are going to have to give up 2 firsts and 2 seconds. I think that would be a fair trade.
Yeah.
Why would they?
If you look at it on a draft chart, sorry, not to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So like the first pick is worth 3,000 points. Houston's pick is worth 2,600, and then their second pick is worth almost 600, 58, 580. So that's almost 200 points more than what the value of the pick is. And I think that's going to be hard for other teams to match because they won't have the same draft capital. I want to say Houston also has, do they have another second?
I don't believe so. Let me look this up.
No, they only have the one. But still, they have 2 first rounders, and then they're picking at 65. So like, they're not missing out on a huge list of prospects, especially when they can still pick at 12.
Yeah. True, they're not. But now, what's the draft projections at number 4?
Okay, so 1,800 plus 550, which is what 2,350, and then you have to think if the Colts get their prospect, they're looking at, would you say 18 is fair next year? That has them just missing out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be 900, which would be 2,250 next year. Or no, sorry, 3,250 plus 30. What would that be? 3,660. I know that's a lot of numbers for our fans out there, but yeah.
Well, and that's what it's like. If I'm the Bears, I get 2 first-round picks next year, and then a second at minimum, then a second this year as well. So, and I still get to go get Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, who I'm going to guess is I'm fine with. Or let's say even say the Cardinals take Will Anderson, and like they don't like Jalen Carter as much. Tyree Wilson's still there, who they love, who I think could be another legit edge. So, and that's where I think for the Texans, they really want to get up to that first round pick. It's going to be more than just that. So let's go ahead.
The one last thing I will say, this is kind of turned into more of a Bears conversation, but if the Bears trade back to 2 for 2 and 33, they can also then trade back with Indianapolis for their 1 and 2 also, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah. Because I don't know if the Colts would do that, though. I mean, why? Like, if you're not going to get your guy, but then you're still going to go move up, then I guess you could be content with another blue chip prospect, kind of similar to what you said. Like, okay, we're not going to get Bryce Young or the guy we want, but we do still like CJ Stroud or Will Levis in this hypothetical scenario. Now maybe the Raiders can come up and pounce on it, but there's a lot of other exterior factors. I don't think that the Bears would go all the way back to 7 without like a big offering from the Raiders or the Panthers.
I mean, you're looking at 7 there. I mean, they're looking at multiple years of first round picks, not just next year's, but like probably the years after, plus a second and maybe a third.
Probably, yeah. We talked a lot about this. Just let's quickly touch on the Texans pick number 12. Best player available. Do you think they solely focus on like best offensive lineman available? Do you think they get their quarterback a weapon? Any defensive players at that time? Well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of defensive players. I think Brian Branch would do well. Lucas Van Ness. I think this is kind of almost something similar to what the Jets did a couple of years ago with Zach Wilson and Elijah Vera Tucker. And I think that's going to be the route that they go.
I actually don't know, because the Texans are in an interesting spot with just having Laramie Tunsil at left tackle already.
Yeah.
And I want to say their offensive line actually wasn't terrible this year.
Yeah.
And they have a pretty solid run game with who's their running back? I had him
Damian Pierce.
Damian Pierce. I kept wanting to say I don't know. It doesn't matter. I kept wanting to say the guy from Chicago, but David Montgomery. But it's Damian Pierce. And they have a fairly solid offensive line already. So I don't know if they try to build that there, especially if they keep that 33rd pick. I think that's the Darnell Wright territory, the tackle from Tennessee. He can play all over, but he actually, I think, would really excel at a right tackle spot. And so I think so Brandon Cooks is expected to be a cap casualty. I think that could be a spot where actually maybe the first receiver comes off the board. And with John Mechie hopefully coming back from leukemia, I want to say they're primarily looking for an outside wide receiver, and that would be Quentin Johnston. I actually kind of like that fit with Bryce Young. But I don't know. I mean, I think that they could go of a variety of positions. If a defensive player falls, they definitely need to stock up on defense. But yeah, I think it's just kind of best player available.
Yeah. There's so many different, similar as what we talked about with our drafts. It's like we could do another draft right now, and I probably would guess that my Houston pick at number 12 would be different than Broderick Jones right now, who I just picked.
Yeah.
So it's going to be crazy. The Texans, some very intriguing situations going on, and it's like I guess now we've done the Bears, Texans, and Colts. I guess we might as well do the Cardinals, and then the Seahawks. Why not? Because they're also intriguing as well. They also have 2 first-round picks, and the Lions.
They do. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, no, I think what the Texans are going to do is really interesting, because they are in a good spot at 2, because they can guarantee themselves a blue chip quarterback prospect.
Mm-hmm.
However, if they only like one of them, I think that's an interesting dilemma that they're in, with Chicago already having Justin Fields and the Colts needing a prospect. So